Hi everyone, so we want to go over utility theory today, and utility theory comes under part of consumer behavior under microeconomics, and it's a really interesting topic area. I find it really fascinating, and it's really like true of real world scenario for a certain person, probably yourself, definitely for me. And I want to go through some examples, a couple of examples about how utility theory happens, but we want to do this through some statistical data on a table format as well as a diagrammatical format as well. So let's start with a couple of key definitions, two very important definitions when it comes to the concept of utility theory. One of them is total utility itself. Total utility is like the overall satisfaction that a person gains from consuming a certain product or service. It's like the total satisfaction, happiness that they gain. The second keyword, number two, marginal utility. So marginal utility, the second keyword here. A marginal utility means the additional satisfaction a person gains by consuming that added or additional product. So if they consume one more product, what's the added benefit that they gain from that particular consumption? So total utility is all the happiness. Marginal utility is like the additional satisfaction that you would gain from consuming one more unit. So that's what marginal utility is. So now let's have a look at an example. An example I want to share with you is chocolate bars. Who doesn't love chocolate bars, right? I've got my particular favorite. I'm sure you've got your own particular favorite, but I want you to kind of think of your most favorite, most delicious, most satisfying chocolate bar that you like to eat. So think about it, right? And once you've thought about it, put it into this context. So think of those that chocolate bar that you're really interested in to consume, and you might be even having one now, maybe. But anyway, so chocolate bars, imagine this. You will potentially consume 5 chocolate bars. Okay. Now, when it comes to total utility, the total satisfaction of consuming those chocolate bars, when you consume 0 chocolate bars, there's 0 satisfaction because you haven't even ate anything, you haven't tasted anything, you haven't consumed anything. There's 0 satisfaction. But when it comes to consuming that first chocolate bar, your total utility increases in this case from 0 to 6. So now you have 6 units of total utility. You gain satisfaction multiplied by 6. 6 times your utility. You're happy, you're satisfied by 6 in this particular scenario. Now, the second chocolate bar that you consume, remember, this is the same chocolate bar, right? Same chocolate bar. So now you're consuming the second chocolate bar, your total utility increases up to 10. So it goes up. The third one up to 12. But then when it comes to the fourth same chocolate bar, your total utility actually remains the same at 12. And that's because you're not really gaining additional satisfaction, because imagine this, you're constantly kind of consuming the same chocolate bar. It gets like, you kind of get fed up to an extent, right? To a certain point, if you don't, then at least your total utility will diminish. And this is what's happening, it's diminishing over time. And then on the 5th chocolate bar, this particular individual has dropped their total utility from 12 to 10. So it's actually gone down, right? And when it comes to marginal utility, if you look at this kind of column here, you'll notice the figures here are related to total utility and chocolate bars. And marginal utility, remember this guys, is like the additional satisfaction from consuming one additional bar. So that will fall, marginal utility figures fall between the chocolate bars. So 0 to 1, 0 to 6 here, total utility is, the difference is 6. The margin that you gain is 6. The chocolate bar, when you consume it from 1 to 2, 6 to 10 is now 4, because the difference between 6 and 10 is 4. So the marginal utility is by 4. But notice this, the marginal utility has actually decreased from 6 to 4. So the additional consumption that a person has, their satisfaction marginally is actually diminishing. And is that true for the next one? Yeah, second to the third chocolate bar, 10 to 12 total utility, now is down to 2. And then here, the person doesn't get any satisfaction by consuming any more, because from the third to the fourth, 12, 12 is 0. There's no kind of additional gain. This is the same. The person doesn't get any more satisfaction after consuming their third chocolate bar. And it gets even worse for the person, because what's happening is that the chocolate bar from 4 to 5, the total utility diminishes, it decreases from 12 to 10, and henceforth it becomes 0 to -2. So their actual, if they consume the fifth chocolate bar, they're actually dissatisfied. It's displeasurable for them. It's not, they're not happy by consuming a fifth one. Imagine that. Wow. So this is what's happening here with the table format. But then when we interpret it into the diagrammatical format, this is how it works. So you've got two curves here that I've put onto the same diagram. The first curve goes like this, and that's known as total utility curve. And that is this column here, right? So on the y-axis, we've got units of utility. On the x-axis, we've got the amount of chocolate bars, and that's up to 5, as we know. And then you've got your total utility and marginal utility, that's going to be on the y-axis. So let's have a look. Chocolate bars. If there's 0 chocolate bars, there'll be 0 utility. When we consume 1 chocolate bar, the total utility is 6. Is that right? Yes, it is. The second chocolate bar gives us a total utility of 10. The third chocolate bar gives us a total utility of 12. There we are. And likewise, the fourth chocolate bar gives us a total utility of 12 as well, likewise. And then, interestingly, the fifth chocolate bar actually gives us 10 as utility, total utility. So you can see that the curve, the slope of the curve increases, okay, then flattens out and then diminishes there. And that's the shape of usually total utility and the utility theory when it comes to like the total satisfaction when you consume a good. Now, that's the total utility theory curve. When it comes to marginal utility curve, like I mentioned, it's the additional gain of satisfaction by consuming one more product, right? So as we can see here, there's marginal utility between 0 to 1 chocolate bars, because remember, if you consume one more, how much gain do you actually get satisfied by? So 0 to 1 is in between the figures. So 0 to 6 is 6. The margin is 6 is the marginal difference between 0 to 1. When it comes to the first to the second chocolate bar, there is a marginal utility gain of 4. So that's true. There we are. Then the second to the third, it's 2 units of marginal utility. And then when it comes to third to the fourth, there is no gain. There is 0 marginal utility just there. And then, of course, we have the difference between the fourth and the fifth chocolate bar, which is -2, and that comes under there underneath the x-axis, because there's no pleasure that you gain from it. Okay, now one thing to note actually here, this point here on the 0 graph, this is known as the point of satiation. The point of satiation is essentially you're totally happy, like your total happiness of consuming that good is at its maximum when we reach that 0 curve at the bottom. So here between 3 to 4, that's the point of total satiation. So here they are totally satisfied, i.e. they're full. They can't consume realistically anymore, because if they do, there, as you can see just there, the curve goes downhill and goes into the minus figure. They will be dissatisfied, and a person obviously doesn't want to be dissatisfied with the consumption. So point X here in this notion is point of satiation. They are satisfied with their consumption. So essentially here, 2 curves, total utility and marginal utility curve. And yeah, I mean, that's all the utility theory in microeconomics. So yeah, very interesting topic area, and I think it's very true when it comes to real world life as well. Like when I think about it myself, I have a certain product, I consume it. If I have the same one again, I consume it again. I mean, the gain, the satisfaction, the pleasure from that first one that I consumed is not as much, and you probably have some examples of that as well. So with that, guys, all the best, and I hope this helps you to understand the topic of utility theory even better. All the best, guys.